If you're a gentleman and you're part of that conversation, that's no longer the same. All right, so women no longer enjoy gossip, they enjoy much more. They bring in different power altogether, and you'll probably get a glimpse of it today. So very interesting tete-a-tete with a few women jewelry designers and influencers who flow resplendent with their stories of diamonds. Some have interesting anecdotes. Some have design stories in their minds. Some are creating stories in the minds of millions across the globe. Well, I have the gentleman who comes here, the colorful man that he is. His name itself means new, so he brings in something new every time. So yes, I'm referring to Mr. Navin Sadarangani, the founder of NYUZ, to get this story going, and he will subsequently invite the women jewelry enthusiasts shortly after the context is set. So let's put our hands together for these lovely women, Mrs. Hetal Vakil Valia, jewelry design mentor, Miss Prernaa, Makharia, jewelry influencer and personal jewelry shopper. Yeah, you can continue the claps. Yeah, it's totally worth it, guys. Keep going. Miss Ambika Narayan, director, Apranjay Jewelers, Miss Preeta Agarwal, jewelry influencer and specialist. What happened to the claps? All right, let them keep going. Miss Anju Jain, creative director, exquisite fine jewelry. And finally, Miss Vaneja Gupta, head of designs and strategy, Aditya Birla Group. A big hand to you all, lovely ladies. I think you think that being a woman, I feel pride in doing so. You think right. All right, over to you, Navin.
Mic check. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Like you're aware, the subject is storytelling is for selling. Okay, see, even I'm getting it fumbled up because I'm having 6 women waiting there with the chairs wanting to come up. तो एक और storytelling moment होने वाला है IIJS के seminars में कि women are going to come up here with their own chairs. Okay, this has also never happened before. तो ये भी एक moment है. Anybody wants to capture that? You can capture that. Before I begin, I'll just set the context for this whole thing. Put on the okay. Stories. How did they begin? Okay, when were the first stories told? Anybody? पहली बार कहानियाँ कहाँ से आती थी? Fantastic. Okay, दादी से, नानी से. So we've all heard of grandmother stories, and that's where storytelling actually began. Okay, but जब दादी होती थी, बच्चा होता था, पोता होता था, सब लोग स्टोरीज सुनते थे और दादी राजा राजी की कहानियाँ, वैल्यूज़ की, अच्छे करतूतों की कहानियाँ, हमारे ज़माने में ऐसा होता था, इतनी कठिनाइयाँ होती थी, एंड यू ऑल हैव इट ऑल लग्जरी, ये सारी कहानियाँ बोलती थी और इसी के कारण बच्चे में ना एक वैल्यू सिस्टम आ जाता था. एंड द किड वुड रिमेंबर दैट, एंड दैट्स हाउ द किड वुड बी नर्चर्ड, एंड एज ही वेंट फर्दर ही ऑल्सो डेवलप्ड हिज ओन स्टोरीज. ओके, ये कब की कहानी है? जब हम जॉइंट फैमिली सिस्टम में रहते थे. ओके, सो ईच फैमिली हैड अबाउट 12 to 15 members. You had दादी, you had uncle, you had everybody together. But what has happened in the past, maybe about 2 decades, families from joint family become nuclear families. Okay, when in nuclear families, you have the mother, father, you have the child, and everybody is so busy. The mother, father is working. All of us are working. Okay, we have little time to even talk to our children, let alone storytelling. तो ये प्रोसेस में क्या हो गया है कि बच्चा अपने आप जो उसको मन में आता है वो सीखता है, उसको स्टोरीज इतनी मिलती नहीं है, उसके कारण मे बी द वैल्यूज दैट आर सो इंटेग्रल टू आवर ट्रेड आर ऑल्सो नॉट कमिंग अक्रॉस. सो व्हाट द दादी एक्चुअली डिड व्हेन शी टॉक्ड अबाउट राजा रानी कठिनाइयाँ, शी वाज एक्चुअली प्लांटिंग वैल्यूज. Okay, as we are going further, we are realizing that these values, which are so integral to every industry, our industry all the more so, are not getting implanted so easily in the next generation, which is where we are going. Okay, so the whole idea is जैसे हमारे life में values और stories की ज़रूरत है, हमारा business, okay, when I'm talking about business, I'm talking from the purview of Venus being the leader in solitaires. It's a story of natural diamonds. Natural diamonds को भी बेचने को जितना a diamond, it rates 10 on the Mohs scale of hardness. A diamond has 58 facets. A diamond is it comes up through tremendous heat and pressure. ये सारे stories से हीरे नहीं बिकते हैं, हीरे बिकते हैं emotional quotient से. So stories like a diamond is forever, when you create the whole story like a diamond is a girl's best friend, all these kind of emotional stories actually sell diamonds. So I think that this kind of storytelling, which the Dadi was doing, which got lost in the personal transit, also somewhere in the industry, while we were selling diamonds, creating collections, we've lost this art of storytelling. Okay? We are so much about VVSGH. We are so much about ये सर्टिफिकेट है, फलाना सर्टिफिकेट इसका है, ये ऐसा है, वैसा है. हम जब बेच रहे हैं, हम फैक्ट्स बेच रहे हैं. Okay? Facts tell, stories sell. That's the eternal truth of life. कि अगर हमको डायमंड ज्वेलरी बेचना है तो हमको स्टोरी टेलिंग करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. एंड दिस इज द इसेंस ऑफ हाउ इन दिस होल सीरीज ऑफ इनोवेट सेमिनार्स where the first part of the seminar story was all about, in the past, all the 5 seminars were largely about facts. This one is uniquely different because it's about stories. And I have the most wonderful people to tell us these stories. 2 of them are jewelers. All of them are women. Okay, so it's by the women for the women. 2 of them are women jewelers, 2 of them are women designers who've been great designers, 2 of them are the country's most prominent influencers. Now imagine if this bundle of women come here, what kind of storytelling that could be, okay? And you are supposed to participate in the whole process. Now what is story? Story is go back. Story is imagination, telling is communication, okay? When we do it for business, the imagination becomes visualization. So we start thinking, we start imagining कि ये कैसा होगा, ऐसा होगा, design ऐसा होगा, हम visualization चालू करते हैं. And when you try to use that story for business, it becomes communication for business. So what we are saying is we want to transcend this whole storytelling to storytelling because we are in it for the business. Okay? What goes on behind the creative mind? We have different kinds of people who do storytelling. So essentially there are 3 kinds of people who do this. Designers do it differently. Jewelers do it differently. Influencers do it differently. So when you look at a designer, उसका storytelling कहाँ से शुरू होता है? उसका storytelling inspiration और start से शुरू होता है. Okay? ये डिजाइनर का मूड बोर्ड होता है, टिपिकल. Okay? इस तरह का हर डिजाइनर का अपना अपना मूड बोर्ड होता है, depending on the kind of story she is trying to weave into the whole context. When you look at a jeweler, jewelers have something called a muse board. Okay? Whenever I speak to a couple of high-end jewelers who I interact with, they tell me that, you know what, Navin, ये डिज़ाइन करने के पहले ही ना मेरे दिमाग में क्लियर था मैं ये किसको बेचने वाला हूँ. I was very clear who I'm making this for. So if I'm investing 40 lakhs on a necklace which is diamonds, emeralds, XYZ, I already have figured out who I'm going to sell it to. And I already know that if she doesn't buy it, I know somebody else who surely will buy it. So before creating something which is 40 lakh of Indian rupees, the guy is very sure who he's making it for. So his muse is very clearly established in his mind. Okay? Similarly, when it comes to the third set of people who we have here, influencers, okay? There's a mood board, there's a muse board. I'm not saying these influencers go overboard, but media is also an influencer. I'm going to share, so I'm not talking about you two, okay? I'm going to share a hilarious thing which happened quite a few years back. और media जो एक influencer है, उसके through आपने क्या देखा TV पे, okay? छोटी सी बात कितनी बड़ी हो गई अब देखो.
शर्माई सी सकुचाई सी, लेकिन इतने फनी मूड में शायद पहली बार दिखी कटरीना. मीडिया से बात करने में कटरीना को कभी कोई हिचक नहीं होती, लेकिन एक सवाल कटरीना को हर बार हैरान परेशान कर देता है, और वो है सलमान से कटरीना के रिश्तों का सवाल. कटरीना से उनकी उंगली में दिख रही रिंग को एंगेजमेंट रिंग से जोड़कर देखा गया तो कटरीना शर्मा गई, लेकिन कटरीना को वो अंगूठी आखिर किसने दी? आइए जानते हैं कटरीना की उस रिंग का राज.
तो फिर कैटरीना को किसने दी ये हीरे की अंगूठी? पूरी बात समझाने के लिए आपको लिए चलते हैं फ्लैशबैक में. दरअसल ये अंगूठी कैटरीना को गिफ्ट की जानी मानी कंपनी. इस अंगूठी को कैटरीना ने पहले रिंग फिंगर में पहना.
That's Preeta's finger,
फिंगर तो किसी और की अंगूठी के लिए रिजर्व. अभी से पहले तो उसका दिल मिल जाएगा, इसलिए उसे उतारकर मिडिल फिंगर में पहना. फिर वहां भी फिट नहीं हुई तो इंडेक्स फिंगर में पहन. तब मीडिया में बैठे किसी ने सवाल डाल दिया कि हम आपके हाथ में सगाई की अंगूठी कब देखेंगे. ये सवाल सुना तो कैटरीना के चेहरे पर आ गई एक शरारत भरी मुस्कान.
Another kind of a video. This is Prernaa in a very personal video that she is sharing.
कैटरीना जल्द ही नजर आएंगी जाने मानी फिल्म मैगजीन फिल्म फेयर के कवर पेज पर।
Okay. So there was one story which went very overboard, and there were two other stories which were very real. One where we saw Preeta admiring and getting her hands full with it was pink and yellow candies, I would say, okay, from Navin, which is a very high-end label up there. And that was Prernaa's wedding story. I'm going to get them to talk more about their story and everything which influences them, right from people to places to collection. So let me invite everybody on board. Come on, everybody. This is the moment where, can you imagine? Even kursiyan log khud leke aayenge, okay? Take it thoda aage, thoda. Take it thoda aage. 6 jane na hum log. You'll have to take it.
Ladies, I guess you're going to set the trend.
Haan.
Yeah, so whenever we've got speakers who pick their own chairs, we're going to remember you.
Yeah.
You were the pioneers to do this, all right?
Yeah. So if they can do it, everybody should do it. Okay? It makes everybody's job easier. Okay. I like 3 mics. Okay. Between every two of them. Okay. So we've got 6 women panelists on board. Instead of me telling you about them, I think it's only fair that since they bought their own chairs, they need to tell their own story first. So let's begin with your story. And we have a minute each for each of you. A minute is about 8 sentences on the higher side. So I'm just setting the rules first. Okay? Come on. Who wants to start? Whatever wise, yeah.
Hello.
Okay.
So Navin's already made us time bound, so I'm going to keep it short. Hi everyone, I'm Prernaa Makharia, India's first jewelry influencer with an experience of almost 20 years in the gems and jewelry industry. I started my career as a jewelry designer and manufacturer, and last 8 years has been jewelry influencing, and now I'm also a personal jewelry shopper. So you can check me out on Instagram at prernaa.makharia with just a little bit of over 171,000 followers. Thank you.
Just a little. Okay, Hetal, go.
Hi, this is Hetal. Firstly, thanks to Navin for getting us all together here. Amazing turnout, so that kind of, peps up the energy in the room. I have been in this industry since I was 15 years old, so it's been a over 33 years old more journey. And I am a designer, I'm a manufacturer. I love teaching, so I've been teaching for over 33 years. I started teaching when we didn't have design schools here in this country, and I haven't stopped since. I manufacture jewelry. I also do consultancy for companies. I was one of the designers who designed the first trend book for the World Gold Council in the country, associated with a lot of councils, a lot of organizations, doing corporate training, seminars, webinars, and making jewelry, which is what I love doing. Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome to the session, and thank you so much for such a great turnout. Thank you, Navin, for arranging this. This is beautiful. I'm Vaneja Gupta. I'm a jewelry designer, creative strategist, and I'd say a fervent lover of art, culture, and all things from the past. I lead the strategic operations for the design team of Aditya Birla Group. It's just come into picture, I think 6 months back. Prior to this, I was working with Titan. I have been in the industry for the last a decade, and I have evolved from being a designer to really finding, I think when we talk about, the connect with storytelling, I think finding that connect of, how I've been inspired, how we have been overall inspired by Indian diversities, but how can we connect the deeper inspirations from each and every element of Indianness? How can we bring the deeper connect of rootedness through a platform, through such a big platform where we are going to soon be launching into chain store across the country. So, and that's where we try to bring in the authenticity of our storytelling through the medium of design and products. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much for all of you for coming and attending our panel discussion. Just chit chat among 6 women. And thank you, Navin, for organizing this last, like, super
Thanks
quick.
to Venus and the whole team of Venus for putting this.
My name is Preeta Agarwal, and by education, I'm a jewelry designer. By passion, I am a jewelry photographer. And when I clubbed both of these things, I became a jewelry influencer. And that's been my journey. So working as a designer, photographer, and then blogging, writing, Instagram came in. So my journey has been evolving ever since. And I don't know 5 years later what I'll be doing. I'm still trying to figure it out every year. So that's me.
Great. Okay.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Anju Jain, and I'm the creative director of our brand called Exquisite Fine Jewelry. We are primarily into color stone couture jewelry. My journey, if I say, it started as young as when I was maybe 8-year-old, because I was born in a family of emeralds. So gemstones we've always played with when we've always been to our dad's offices. But jewelry started when I actually got married to a gemstone manufacturer. I have a degree in fashion, but seeing so much of beauty in the gemstones, and we used to customize cuts for a lot of designers around the world. And unfortunately, in India, we were not customizing for anyone, so we thought, let's start a brand of our own. So we have a different take on gemstone jewelry, and I'd love to invite you, for people who don't know us, to visit us. And yeah, from a jewelry designer to now being the creative director of our company, we also have a retail brand which is very prominent in the Gulf. We cater to a lot of important families and the privileged women in the Gulf. So that's from a small, just earring designer to creating unique pieces. That's been our forte. I look forward to interacting with each one of you. Thank you, Navin, and thank you, Venus Jewels, for hosting us. Thank you.
A very good evening to all of you. Firstly, I would like to thank Venus and Navin, of course, for inviting all of us here. So I'm Ambika Narayan from Bangalore. We are retail jewelers. And the way we work is we are very personalized family jewelers. So we believe in relationship with our customers. And my background is I have been in the jewelry industry for the last 25 years, prior to which I was handling the industry where it was men and machinery and shifted into jewelry, women and jewelry. And trust me, it's not the same. It's like poles apart. But then every day is interesting. Every day is different. You learn a lot from your customers. I mean, that's one thing that we have to give it to the customers. Apart from running the business, I'm also, I mean, I've recently started a clothing line, which is hand-woven sarees from across the country, fabrics also. That's a recent one that I initiated. My spare time, I spend a lot of time with Rotary, which is an international organization, and also working on environment. We've floated a trust. So I try to fit in as much as possible in the day and in my life. So happy to be here. Looking forward to your interaction.
Sorry, I'd like to mention that with honor, I'd like to mention that we have launched a ladies' wing. In our industry, there are not many of those. We are the first ones who've launched a ladies' wing for IBJA, that is Indian Bullion and Jewelers Association. And we've done a lot of events. It's been a few months. We've done a lot of activities for women empowerment. So for all the women in the audience, if anybody would like to join, the membership is free, and I'm the national person for the same. So please contact me. We want to have more women in the industry because the products we make are for women. And it doesn't mean that we want to replace the men. It means we want a more inclusive environment. So I just thought I'll put it out there. Any women interested, please do get in touch. Thank you.
Okay. So great. So everybody's got a chance to share their story. My story. My name is Navin Sadarangani. For those who don't know me, I'm Navin Sadarangani. I've been in jewelry for almost 32 years now. The first 13 years, I got into jewelry by fluke. I was with the Rosy Blue Group. I was doing international sales. I was heading Japan. Then I wanted to learn manufacturing. So I sat on the bench like a worker and learned every facet of manufacturing with the promise that I get to head India's first platinum jewelry factory. I ran that for 3 years. The company then got on to retail. So the brand, what you see, Aura, is what me, the chairman, and the MD moved out as part of the core team. We set up that. And then there was a shift in the way forward. So we started wholesale in the name of Hammer Plus. So that's my background. I have 13 years of 4 facets in the jewelry industry. 2005, I started NYUZ. NYUZ is basically a coaching and consulting firm in jewelry retail, so I don't touch jewelry anymore. but I do everything which is fun in the jewelry space. So I have my own 4 Cs: coaching, consulting, creative services, concepts, and creations. Okay, so that's my story. And like Hetal was saying, and the reason we are doing this is increasingly we're seeing that there are a lot of women who are taking this whole industry very seriously and mushrooming and growing. And just like, Hetal was talking about IIJS, there's another body called WJA, Women Jewelry Association. In fact, all the women who are around, in fact, we're all meeting up after this. Just immediately after this, we're all meeting, about 50, 70 of us. That's WJA India, which we're going to. So this is all about, and I felt that, a panel needs to be dedicated solely to the women, because it's you who are actually creating the product. The end consumers, you know better. So let's get going, okay? Ambika, that's for you, okay? So, you don't turn around, I'll tell you, okay? This is the only chance I get to speak. बाद में आप ही को बात करना है, okay? Question खाली मेरे को पूछने मिल रहा है. Okay, so anything, the whole idea is that, we are into storytelling. Is there something by way of a product or a collection, okay, that you have created, done, been part of, or seen, okay, which is so outstanding that you find it worthy of mention? And like, Vaneja rightly said, I mean, she likes authentic stories, so we want this to be an authentic story. So something, however small, but if you feel there's a story element to it, do share with us, because that's where we're going to all get our inspiration from. Okay?
Okay. Like you mentioned, Navin, in your talk when you introduced, every woman want to be different. Everybody would like to have their own identity. So we believe that jewelry is more for the person, and it's very personalized. It brings out the personality of the person. If you try to be something else and want to wear something that doesn't, be it clothes or attire or jewelry, if it doesn't suit you, then it doesn't really make sense. So at Apranj, since we are working with our clients in terms of a very personal relationship, so we work on building relationships and taking it forward with them. And by the way, business happens. I mean, that's rest assured. If you're very open with customers and if you have a relationship, it really helps. And the other thing that you mentioned, that you see a piece of jewelry that in your mind, you already have somebody in your mind. Now, when we work by reference, by the way, so our clients, they choose us, and not that we choose them, but they choose us. But then we don't want to have repeats. So we work with a lot of design house that's from across the country. Some of them are here, of course. So we have a person in mind, and we curate our jewelry, keeping the person in mind. Of course, there is a backup, somebody else would pick it up. And we, from our customers, have heard that we have some very beautiful jewelry. So I would definitely compliment the manufacturers who we work with, because they give us a whole line of jewelry. And our expertise is very fine quality diamonds. So I would say the storytelling would be more of a relationship with customers and all of it. And jewelry designs, we work with our manufacturers, so we do bank on them to give us a wide variety of jewelry.
Okay. So your story largely is around relationships.
Totally with relationships,
okay,
yes.
okay, okay.
We have generations with us. I mean, for decades, the next generation keeps coming back to us. So our storytelling, I would not call it storytelling. It's the depth of the matter. It's more of substance. It's all about relationship with the customers. And jewelry and business happens by the way.
Okay. Anju, you come from a land
Yes.
where every woman who is getting married, no, उसके दिमाग में वो visualization आपके land का ही आता है.
Yes.
So do you have a story which is connected to that, or something to do with jewelry collection from that zone?
I think, to be honest, it's my life story as well.
Okay.
Because anybody from Jaipur here?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jaipur is a land of heritage, culture, beautiful architecture, land of royals, and people who've grown up in Jaipur, they already have art and craft, and the exposure to that beauty, I think, just translates so well into jewelry, into clothing, into textiles, so and a number of crafts. So Jaipur has always been a hub of handcrafted treasures. And not only now, from ancient history also, we've had houses which have done meenakari for prominent names in India, for the Maharajas around the world. So I think while growing up, during our schooling days as well, we were really exposed to a lot of arts, and we were very hands-on with doing ties and dyes and batik. So somewhere that art has always influenced us. But as I did a course in fashion, that just translated even in a better way. But when we were exposed to this world of gemstones, the gemstone carvings, the Mughal carvings, the layouts, I think 50% of the gemstones selling here, they're all from Jaipur. So Jaipur is such an integral part of a jewelry specially produced in India. But when I take this story to my retail clients in the Gulf, we are very active in the Middle East by a retail brand called Nafis. And that is where Jaipur helps, because Jaipur is a brand for them. For example, if it's just a story, if I'm just putting an Amer fort or a Hawa Mahal or just simply a red chunari and the woman just making rotis on the mitti ka tawa, they are so intrigued, they're so fascinated by this world that they just want to connect with you. It's like, that, okay, this is where the root of design, culture and handcrafted is coming from. So they're really fascinated. It's not like Italy. For example, I'm very fascinated by Italy because any place, if I keep above Jaipur, is only that would be for international. But otherwise, Jaipur rules. So we had a very interesting, sorry, I'm taking longer.
No, you have to tell us the
This
story.
just translated. If the Jaipur architecture has a very prominent domes and the chhatris, as everybody would know.
Correct.
So we had a collection, and that's still permanent with us. We had a collection called Jaipur, and that's translated into Jaipur modern now, which essentially is inspired by the shape of the chhatris or the domes.
The dome shape.
The dome shapes, yeah. So the melons or the beads or the... so that collection has been our best sellers.
Earrings largely?
There have been earrings, there have been strings, there have been malas, there have been all kind of melon beads. So that collection has always been our bestseller, and I'm very proud that inception, that conceptualization comes from maybe a lot of things which was coming in the mind since while we were growing up, and translated so beautifully. So yeah, Jaipur is where our heart lies, and I'm so happy that we could produce a collection which is one of our bestsellers.
Nice. And it worked for you?
Absolutely, and it still does.
Okay.
Yeah. We've made some changes in that with the time, but it's become Jaipur modern now.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes, Jaipur is a story for us.
Okay. So anybody who has a collection, okay, Hetal, you want to share a collection-based story or something like that?
Yeah, so I think it's very important. We're talking about storytelling, we're talking about designing, but I think it's very important to understand whom you're designing for. So then the story develops around it. So we need to understand the changing role of the modern Indian woman. So आज की नारी केवल गृहिणी नहीं है. She's not just a housewife, right? We are all working, we are professionals, we are businesswomen, and we are a homemaker. So we are keeping a work-life balance. So roles are changing, so naturally preferences are changing, demand for jewelry is changing. And I think for us, that's very important. We keep that in mind, and then we design. So what really, really affected me once was that halo ring design concept that De Beers had come up with. Now, they really highlighted the fact that the woman is the emotional center of the family. So वो काम कर रही है. She's doing her duty. She's taking all the responsibilities, but she is still the emotional center. She's the one who's binding the family together. Multiple roles, donning many hats, but she's doing that. So that really resonated with me, and we had a range of jewelry where we took the woman as the invisible cord who's joining the entire family. So we had, jewelry with rose quartz, which stands for love. And she's the one who's the anchor, who gives like calm and who gives peace. So a lot of jewelry with amethyst also. Not very expensive stones which are easily affordable by the average woman, by the millennials, by the Gen Zs. And it's something which they can wear for everyday wear, for work wear. So you could have stackable rings like this. You could have stackable bracelets. You could have multiple chains. So a lot of wearable jewelry which is worn not by the locker, but by the woman in, when she has to attend different occasions in her life. So that halo ring concept really resonated, and we came up with a range of jewelry from that. Also, we felt that even she's fulfilling all her responsibilities, but there is that inner child in her. There is something which is, a free spirit. So we had then a range of jewelry which was catered towards that. So we said, okay, we want her to have a spring in her step. So the entire inspiration was from spring. So we had petals and leaves and nature in all its varied forms, which was the collection. So I think it's very important. Storytelling is where you're engaging the customer. See, आज कोई भी अगर गहने खरीदता है, तो they are not thinking from the brain, honestly. It is not the rational part of the brain which is working, because then we would only go to one particular person, do the hisab kitab, itne ke diamonds, itna ka gold, itne ki making aur kharid lo. But we go to one particular jeweler, we go to one particular store. Why? Because we are emotionally connected. So that means when we are buying jewelry, we are thinking from the limbic brain, where emotions are residing. Like you rightly said, Navin said diamond is forever. So aaj bhi, even if I'm in the business, I'll say, diamond is forever. So khareedna hai. So it's like impacted our minds where the emotions are residing. So whenever we are designing, it's very important to have a storyline for the woman who's buying it and resonating with her individual personality, her lifestyle, what she likes to do. I think that's very important. In fact, forget me as a designer or a manufacturer. I was reading about this guy called Zamir Kassam. And very interesting, because there is no inventory in his store. Okay? No e-commerce. He just has a presence as a website. But you will not believe that he travels the world over to meet with clients who give him the story of their lives, and accordingly he designs bespoke jewelry within 3 weeks to 3 months. He's designed over 600 pieces, never has a bride ask for a remake. Kabhi-kabhi kya hota hai ki the groom wants to surprise. So, which sometimes becomes a shock for the bride, right? But, so this guy actually goes, he understands the bride, her requirement, her lifestyle, and also puts in some things like, a hidden stone somewhere, which will tell them when they had met, or a little carving which will talk about some particular culture or some heritage that, reflects their culture or heritage. So something like that which becomes so personalized, so customized. So whenever she wears it, she'll feel like this is mine, individually mine. So I think that kind of resonated, and that's what I do in my work also, that it should be something that she can wear. I always tell them, jewelry wo ghadi tod-fod karo, remaking karo, wo hona hi nahi chahiye. It should be something that you can pass down from one generation to another. Enjoy, treasured, not lying in the locker, but something that you wear and you enjoy. So yeah, that's what storytelling to me is all about.
Fantastic.
Not about particular things like itne ka. Of course, we give transparency, wo to deni hai. We give them the breakups and everything, but it goes beyond breakup. We are selling jewelry. It's a luxury. It is not a commodity. So we are to treat it like an experience that they will remember for the rest of their lives.
Lovely, lovely. Very well put. Yeah. Lisa.
So there's a very beautiful story of connection that Hetal mentioned, and I think there was a very beautiful story of region that Anju mentioned. And it's actually true, it's no more, of course, it's no more about just being a commodity. But the fact that, and storytelling, it's not something that's new. It's been a part of in fact, it's been one of the first modes of expression. It predates writing as a, as an expressive medium.
True.
And while it has stayed with us, the fact that how it has evolved in the last few years, especially post-COVID, because the biggest consumer sentiment post-COVID was the fact that suddenly, because of the entire economic turbulence and disturbances and the tech exhaustion, I think people asked, I think all of us together were asking that question of finding our purpose.
Yeah.
Finding meaning of life. What are we here for? Because we saw nothing make sense, right? And I think through that, we realized, how people started moving to it. The more the disturbances, exaggerated, I think the more was the need to find a certain kind of comfort. Yeah, introspect. Yeah. That introspection led to finding comfort, and comfort from your past. Because nothing made sense in your present, you don't know what's going to happen in your future. And that's why you started looking back into your past. The moment you started, doing that, we realized how the world suddenly connected to their culture, connected to, where they're coming from, what is my roots, why am I here, that's where they started going back to their natives, finding the connects with their grandparents, finding the connect with heirlooms, and these subjects became very big. And the moment that happened, we saw like this huge shift around the world. And I think that's where people started questioning the authenticity of story. So while you, still get inspired by the Hawa Mahal and the Amer Fort, and while you still talk about, women, but how authentically are you doing it? Is it just to do another marketing campaign, or is it really to, bring in that larger connect, not with just the consumers of today, but how will that even build to the consumer of tomorrow? How are you building that legacy through that story? So if it's connecting to me tomorrow, if I'm passing that heirloom, my next generation is not going to just keep it, but connect that, oh my God, it comes from something from our past. Maybe it comes from as old as Indus Valley civilization, where jewelry actually started for us. Maybe it comes from our heritage. So I'm saying it's not just about, peacocks and paisleys, but even if we are doing that, how authentically, and second, how differently are we attempting it? How are we trying to connect it to the world while still being meaningful, while still being so thoughtful about that journey? And that is where I think, brands will eventually grow into capturing that huge market, where there's power. There's so much power that I think we have through that journey of product, through the journey of stories, and it connects to everything then, it connects to retail, it connects to marketing, it connects to everything.
So you've given me a small cue. I just want to share something with everybody. It'll take 2 minutes. It is very relevant to the cue she's given and the subject about the product collection story. In '97, when I was part of retail, I was part of a store which is called Intergold. Because it was called Intergold, people thought it's international, so we would not have the typical Indian woman walking in. To get that woman to walk in, we had created a collection in '97. It was called Swayambhu. Okay? The meaning of Swayambhu is emergence of the original. For that, we actually got somebody who acclaimed himself as the first spiritual artist of India, and he did paintings based on the Shastras. Okay? So he did paintings based on the Shastras, and we actually bought those paintings, and there were concepts as unheard of. So if I ask you, have you ever heard of the word Nirupadrava? You say no. Have you heard of something called Tvarita Kala Saundari? Nahi. Parshurama suna hai, Lakshmi suna hai. Okay? लेकिन ये दो नहीं सुना है हमने. Okay? These kind of concepts exist in our Shastras. अगर इस अभाव को या इस चीज़ को मैंने recreate किया पेंटिंग फॉर्मेट में, और फिर एक ज्वेलरी डिज़ाइनर को बिठाया कि देखो ये पेंटिंग को वेरिएबल आर्ट फॉर्म में क्रिएट करना है, कीपिंग द इसेंस ऑफ दिस द सेम, एंड यू क्रिएट दिस होल थिंग in art form, in variable art, where it is pendant. And you're staying true to our culture. And then that pendant is also telling you a story, because with every piece of jewelry, there was a pothi. The pothi told you what the jewelry meant. So sometimes you loved the design. Sometimes you loved what Tvarita Kala Saundari meant, because it talked about a very young girl who's just become a teenager and she's going abroad for studies. And this worn next to her chest will always protect her and tell her about the good things. Don't get carried away when you go to America. Okay? So sometimes products stole because of that, because the story was powerful. Now I'm saying that worked so well for us then that we had to recreate it the next year as Swayambhu Siddhidata. Third year it was Swayambhu Sarveshwar. Fourth year it was Swayambhu Sarvam, because suddenly spiritual jewelry was a way of life for a lot of people. So that's a product-oriented.
And the best part, Navin, adding to that is, it's relevant today. And because it's coming from such an authentic history of ours, I mean, even 20 years later, say 100 years later, that belief, that faith in a part of our legacy will still be there. And that is how it literally journeys from one generation to another. And so many worldly brands have done it. I mean, if we look into the past of from the world of Cartiers to Bulgari, they are banking on their past from 5,000 years
Cartier
ago.
is her story.
They are the story. They have a 100-year legacy of their past operating till today, and still an aspiration from women like us, and it's going to be for women of tomorrow.
True.
Well, adding to what Navin is saying, I'll come back to the Cartier story later, but since we're talking about the collections and storytelling, as an influencer, as much as we talk about storytelling, for me, it is stories showing, because a lot of people are viewing on Instagram and the various social media platforms. So just to share a little thing, you know, whenever people see jewelry on the page, many of them come back to me asking, अरे ये collection बिकता है क्या? इसकी resale value क्या है? And I'm thinking to myself, आप jewelry देख रहे हो. The first thing that needs to come to your mind is, are you liking it? Do you want to buy it because you like it? Not because you want to already think of the resale value of it. The first thing, you're already making it a commodity. Jewelry is, in my opinion, an emotion. It's a luxury. You want to buy it because you like it, not terming it as an investment or, you know, with the return value to it. I mean, I understand that is also important, but वो एहसास, हम जब बोलते हैं कि वो एहसास होना चाहिए jewelry का, वो ज़्यादा important है, talking about storytelling.
Preeta, I'm going to come to you with the second part of our question. Now, this has to do with, like while we were talking about, she was talking about her Jaipur story and how Jaipur gives her the inspiration to create so much more of collections. And Hetal talked about the halo and all of these other stories. So these are product-oriented stories or collection-oriented stories. Swayambhu was a product-oriented, a collection-oriented story. Now, I'm saying many a times stories have been created and they become bigger than life or diamonds sell because of a person. Okay? Somebody does something. I don't know how many of you all have seen Rocky versus Rani या Rocky and Rani. पिक्चर का नाम जो है, मैं पिक्चर का नाम भूल गया, लेकिन मैं ये नहीं भूला कि जब भी रणवीर पे क्लोजअप आ रहा है ना, तो मेरे को 5 कैरेट का हीरा दिख रहा है. ओके? अब ये कैसे हो गया? आई एम श्योर कुछ हुआ है. Okay, it is not normal. It is part of a bigger thing because I've also seen him and I've seen his brand and I've seen the clothes. ये normal नहीं है. Okay, there is somebody trying to weave the damn story into it, kind of a thing. Now I'm saying, so just like that, is there any people-oriented story or a person-oriented story, whether it's celebrity, whether it's designer, whether it's somebody you've dealt with, or even somebody who's a customer or somebody, कि वो आदमी के कारण ना वो jewelry या वो story का connection strong हो गया है.
Okay, so the story that I'm going to tell you is how I realized that I am able to influence people.
Okay, lovely.
So this is before I started my work as a jewelry influencer, and this incident made me realize, okay, I can influence somebody to buy jewelry.
Secret दे रहे हो आप बार?
नहीं, secret नहीं है. It's very simple. So I was working for a jewelry brand in Delhi. It's a retail brand, and I was handling marketing, not sales. But there was one lady who was damn rich, very loaded. She would come, she would see, she would go. The sales team was not able to convert. And it was a diamond jewelry brand, and obviously big, chunky pieces, and she can buy it like not even bat an eye and take something worth 50 lakhs that loaded, and they were just not able to convert her. And one day, I don't know for what reason, I was at the showroom for some other work, and she walked in. And the sales staff were busy. So I said, ऐसा तो नहीं कर सकते कि customer है, nobody is there to attend. So I was like, by the time sales staff gets free, let me at least show her what. Because I knew all the collections by heart and I knew I had a jewelry design background, I started talking to her. I started understanding what is she looking for. She had a very, very prominently round face. So she was like, none of the earrings look good on me. I made her try something. And then I was talking about face cuts and how jewelry looks nice on a certain face cut, her hairstyle. She had a very typical hairstyle that she would always have for like how many years. So I started talking about her face, her body shape, what kind of jewelry would look nice. And then she started trying pieces. She bought so much jewelry that day. It was crazy. And then she became a regular client. And then she would tell the staff saying, "Kya Preeta ko bula do. I want." And I'm like, I'm not a sales staff, but yes. So that whole talking, I was just talking to her. I was trying to get into her lifestyle, her hairstyle, her face. What is the kind of events that she needs to go to? What is the kind of jewelry? Why is she looking at diamond jewelry? Is there something coming up in the family? So we had a long conversation, and that conversation mein she kept sorting pieces. वो tray भरती गई, and eventually the billing was quite high. So it's all about influencing people by knowing them. Not by just saying this is pretty, collection A, B, C. Yes, there are a lot of inspirations, everybody is working very hard, but eventually the customer wants it for themselves to look pretty.
True, true.
At the end of the day, all the stories, the inspiration is for her to know and buy, but when she walks out at an event, she needs to look pretty.
Correct.
That's the bottom line.
It's all about herself. She has
It's
to.
the bottom line. People need to compliment. That's what jewelry brings in. Jewelry brings in compliments. So, I think that's the influencing bit of it, story bit of it, that it's all about how you talk, what you explain, what is the language that you're dealing with, and that kind of at times turns into big numbers.
But tell me something. She asked you to deal with her. Okay?
No, later on.
Later on,
This
okay.
was very coincidental because the sales staff were busy and I'm a marketing person.
So
I
how
was,
come so far the sales staff were never able to talk the story?
No, so, sorry? I
Do you think this is a generic problem in the country?
Yes,
that as
it is.
salespeople we create
Absolutely.
with so much story, ये ऐसा है, ये ऐसा है, लेकिन जब काउंटर पे जाता है तो हमको बहुत ही इतना हर्ट होता होएगा.
No, so what is happening in our country at a lot of retail stores is the sales staff is just talking numbers. ये collection का नाम भी बोल रहे हैं. ऐसा नहीं है that they are not. They've been taught पूरा. They are saying ये XYZ collection है, ये XYZ. But वो उसको personal connect नहीं दे पा रहे हैं to the client. They are saying अच्छा आपको chandelier earrings चाहिए ma'am, there are 1, 2, 3, 10 options. You want rings, there are 10 options. But आप उसको personal connect नहीं दे पा रहे हो कि उन पे कौन सा अच्छा लगेगा, उनके पास कौन से कलर का आउटफिट है जिससे आप रिलेट करो, जिससे वो कॉम्प्लीमेंट करे, कॉन्ट्रास्ट करे, कुछ तो उसको इन्वॉल्व करो. And that is what I did because of my knowledge, and the sales staff also came in, but they realized कि यहाँ सब बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है, तो they kind of stepped back and.
Okay.
But I
Vaneja,
think
you want to say something?
I also do a lot of such workshops. I've done for a few jewelers where I go and teach the sales staff storytelling. That beyond your XYZ things, there is a lot of communication that you need to do. Grooming on a different scale, not visual grooming, but on a mental level of how you can talk to your clients better. So that's where it.
I have something to add there.
Yeah.
Because I've always noticed whenever a client is coming in, they're always looking for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always like that. Because it's you who explains the product, who designs the product, who's so passionate about the product that they can see it translating when we are talking to them. Strangely, we try to train the staff, but जैसे बोलते हैं ना खुद के मरे बिना स्वर्ग नहीं मिलता, तो staff तो उस तरह से बात नहीं कर पाता. Like we go to designers.
बोलेगा, hallmarking मतलब BIS बोलेगा.
Because they are, for them it's a product. For them it's always a product. इतना कैरेट का हीरा है, ये रैप से इतना कम मिलेगा. So that emotion की क्या occasion है, किस लिए पहनना है, क्या personality है. We should be paying attention to that. And that involves when you talk to the client. Talk to the client and talk to the product. Price बोले, अच्छा बताते हैं आपको. पहले product देखो. Just explain your product, your idea, your inspiration, the whole storytelling is more important than actually the price. Once he's convinced, उसको मालूम है फिर अब यहीं से लेना है. फिर वो 2-4 लाख रुपए ऊपर नीचे नहीं देखेगा. When they connect to you on a personal level, I think that human connect we should get back. And
I think that's why in India so many women wait for weeks to get an appointment with Sabyasachi himself to buy, because the passion comes, you know, buying an outfit from his store versus buying when he's attending to you is an experience in itself, because his passion is at another level. कोई भी sales staff वो passion match कर ही नहीं सकते हैं.
And probably in 2 outfits they'll choose one of them. They don't have to show hundreds.
Yeah, he'll just show you 2 and they'll pick one. But women wait for weeks and months to get an appointment with him so that he can attend to them directly, which he rarely does.
Oh, including at the Vogue wedding show when I've seen that people are queuing up like for almost 2 hours just to get inside and meet him and, you know, get an appointment. But adding on to the Cartier story, since we're talking about...
Vaneja, I want you to explain the whole Cartier story, okay?
Okay, so, you know, I think there's a very beautiful point that Preeta and Anju were discussing. And, you know, while they come from individual retailers, individual designers, you know, where they're so lucky that they get to handle customers, you know, right there. Everyone will come to them. I'm talking about mass, you know, because I come from that sector. I've been working for Tanish Zoya and now Aditya Birla Group. We are catering to the entire nation. And there's such a nice point that Preeta mentioned that, you know, while the jewelry is pretty, the video is amazing, it's worn by Alia Bhatt and Kiara Advanis of the world, but how do I connect to it? Till the time I am not looking pretty, and I am someone who's, say, sitting in a Patna, I am someone who's sitting in a Rajkot, I'm someone who's sitting in a Kerala, and it still had to make sense to me. So while the aspirational, you know, of the influencers, we call it the influence of the influencers. So while there are the Sabyasachis and Manish Malhotras and Alia Bhatt's wedding and Kiara's wedding of the world, which makes the best statement and trends of the, you know, nation.
They are the biggest influencers.
Absolutely. But then there are regional influencers. There are regional stories. How do you translate the same language to a person sitting in Ahmedabad? And there are these people who are doing a wonderful job, and I've seen their work also. You know, when they'll say how to recreate Alia Bhatt's look in, say, 20,000, in, say, a lakh. Because not everybody, how many people, let's be honest, how many are there who can afford a Sabyasachi, right? And I'm talking about mass. So how, one is how quickly, how, you know, with how much agility can you do it? Because that's the trend, that's the aspiration of the nation. And how do I do it? In a price point, one, which caters to a mass. Second, which connects to my regional aesthetics. So if I'm in Gujarat, I know there's a certain restriction to a color white, you know, or maybe I'll have to wear red, but I still want something like that. And I still want to look pretty. How do you address it as a whole? You know, how do you address each and every aspect of these trends while being affordable, while being aesthetically on point, and still, you know, being like the admirer, that one point destination. That is what I feel has become a challenge, especially when I look at it from, you know, a mass point, you know, I mean, a national retailer point.
India has 20 countries.
More than 20 countries, Navin. Diversity is every, I think, 20 kilometers, the language changes, the looks changes, the crafts changes, the food changes. So how do we cater? And that's where I think, you know, such a huge power that I feel lies with regionalization of these cultures, you know, how you make a statement which is pan-India, but how does it reach every aspect, at least maximum aspects? I mean, Chuda is one of the very good examples that we've seen in the last few years. Chuda was a, I think, Delhi-based, north-based category, jewelry category. It has become a pan-India aspiration where every bride has a customized chuda. If I'm wearing a pink lehenga, I'm wearing a pink chuda. A South Indian bride, they come to us and they're like, we want chudas. A Bihari bride comes to us and they're like, we want chudas. You know, that's the power of a regional category going pan-India and, you know, cross-pollination of these categories where, I mean, it's one and we have so many. So, yeah.
So if you want to sell in India, like she rightly said, we have brands like Bulgari coming in. They've gone into Mangal Sutras. I mean, imagine a brand of, international brand now coming into Mangal Sutras. That itself says that one has to cater to individual needs. In fact, when we think of story of Titan, now it's a big giant and taking up a lot of the market share. But there was a point, I don't remember which year, where literally they felt that if this doesn't work out, we are going to shut shop. So what did they do? There was so much inventory on the shelf. What did they do? They took jewelry which was being displayed in north and sent it maybe to the west. From east into the south.
Cross-pollination of
So designs were just reshuffled and surprise, they started, you know, flying off the shelves. So it just goes to show that one has to, I keep reiterating, one has to understand the mind of the consumer. The modern woman, the millennials and the Gen Z. If you understand कि उनको क्या चाहिए, उस हिसाब से design बनाओ तो माल बिकेगा. And at the end of the day, we all want sales, right? The bottom line is that it has to, it's not a beautiful piece that you're putting on a wall somewhere or on a table. It is something which is to be worn. So it has to translate into actual sales.
Storyselling.
Yes, another thing, you will relate to this, Navin, that designers and the jewelry sales associates, unka disconnect ho jata hai. The jewelry sales associate is talking to the customer, understanding their what their story is, what they want. By the time it goes to the back room where the designer is sitting, it is completely or partially lost. So designer अपनी design बनाता रहता है, जो बिका वो ठीक है, नहीं है तो वो बाद में change कर देंगे. So I think what is very important is education and also awareness, whereby the person who is at the counter can probably, that's what I teach also, we quickly make them sketch, ताकि थोड़ा बहुत idea आ जाए दिमाग में कि भाई customer को क्या चाहिए. And that is then given to the designer, so the designs are made according to the consumer's preferences. And once you do that, sales are a given. So I think that is very important. So storytelling to the customer and translating it into the product with the design.
We have time just for one last story, Prernaa.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So coming back to the Cartier story that we were talking, Cartier is a luxury brand that pretty much everyone knows about. And I happened to meet Francesca Cartier, who's a descendant of the Cartier family in India while she was here a couple of years ago. We happened to be in touch, and while she was on a world tour of releasing her book in everywhere, we just happened to stay in touch and talk about that, she may be coming to India, and we spoke that, okay, let's maybe do a book signing in Bombay. And it came as a surprise, and she's like, yes, let's do it. It came as a surprise to me that she's chosen me to have the book signing in Bombay. And we literally put the event in 1 week together. Not even 1 week, probably 6 days, because she had literally half a day of time that she could spare. And all the people, relevant people of the industry. And one important thing was, where we talk about storytelling, we chose to do this at a bookstore and not any other place like a luxury hotel or any of that, because our essence and our target audience were book readers. So I think even when it comes to jewelry, that is very important to understand, like how Hetal was saying, सिर्फ बेचना ही नहीं है उसको, you have to understand the customer's need. So we happened to do that at the bookstore. And believe you me not, the stalwarts of the industry were all queuing up to only get the book signed from Francesca. And we must have sold over 600 copies that day, which is sort of a history in a book selling event of 2 hours. So, that was a little story from the Cartier. And I think right after that, she decided to also do a couple of journeys in India then.
Great. So, Harshal, are we on time? Can we take some questions from the audience? Or if the audience, they've been generous in sharing, right from a Cartier to a Jaipur, to the personal stories, to stories of clients. We started a little late, but we still have time. If somebody has any kind of a question or on the subject.
There's someone
okay,
raising
on the
a hand
subject.
at the back,
Okay,
yeah.
there.
So just a moment, we have a mic coming to
I'll
you.
have the mic. And you can address your question to whoever you want over here.
So my question is to you. Since you have worked with Tanishq, Zoya and Aditya Birla Group, what are the elements that smaller retailers can use in their storytelling, apart from the ones that were already shared during this interaction?
There are a lot, as I said. India is a very diverse country. Which part is your store from?
Delhi.
Delhi. So even if we go, Delhi is divided into, we know the South X, difference between South X to Noida, right? There are memes and videos all around the world. So one is to first look within our community, within the places that we come from, and not just Delhi as we see today. And Delhi is one of the most beautiful cities in terms of, the kind of architecture we have, the kind of gardens we have, the kind of history that comes with the city, with the state also. How deep can we dive into it? And while knowing how many people have attempted it, how differently can we tell the story? What is that unique factor that can still be, while there is the gardens, I think Lodhi gardens to Humayun's tomb, to Qutub. While the world knows about Qutub, how many of them actually know about, the story that it took so many years because it was left incomplete? And I'm just saying that's one way to look at it. The other way is also that, how do you connect the regional elements of one part to the broader country? So one is to go deep dive into your own and then maximize it with the width, that the potential that it has to go wide out there in the country. And I think a lot of, we are doing it in a lot of different ways. In fact, the moment a story runs from a Tanishq to a Zoya to a Mia, it will vary because the customer is very different between a Mia and a Zoya and a Tanishq. So who your customer, who is going to be that end consumer who are going to consume these stories? How will you make it relevant to them? And not just for today, as I said, bringing that connection from the past, connecting to present, and also something that goes it in the future for many, many years to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anju, can I have the mic? Yeah.
Can we have coming this side?
Yeah.
I'm in the retail. So when I talk about the product of female customer and my wife talks to her, there's a difference. She can talk about, like she says, the hair is good, your face is good, and this and good. Will that be well accepted by the female customer coming from a guy?
See, I know it. You will feel odd initially talking like that. The woman might also feel odd that you are complimenting her hair and her skin and her ear. But there are very sophisticated ways of doing the same. Very subtle. You don't need to be very obvious about it. I know women can get down to a very personal level, but there are men I have interacted with in the fashion community who are selling, and they're selling clothes, and there's only men.
Even the jewelry community, there are enough men.
You can compliment her, but
Yeah.
it needs to be a very subtle one. So that the tonality of it needs to be very formal, very, very sophisticatedly. She should not feel odd, but you can do it. It's just practice. Practice it with your wife. Do like dummy practices with her on the other side, and then you can get some.
He'll never buy from me.
There's a saying, no less is more. So maybe just a few words that just makes her feel, brings a smile on her face will do the job.
Meghna, you have something to ask people,
Just to
because
mention
you're doing your
this,
own level of...
the best hairstylists are men. Not the best, but one of the best. I can't put the women aside. One of the best hairstylists, one of the best cooks, one of the best fashion designers are men. So, I mean, you have to be a professional. You don't cross boundaries. But if you convince her in the right way with the right tone, as she said, I think it works wonders. And who doesn't like to be complimented? In fact, I think 80% of our industries run on a woman's vanity. All we want to know is, see, iron, steel, cement ko chhod do. Baki sab, whether it's makeup or fashion, it's always on a woman's vanity.
And
So we want to
Bombay's
be
best
complimented.
diamond jewelry salespeople, okay, are men who are on Turner Road.
Yeah.
Okay, Turner Road is the hub of the diamond buying district of this country.
There you go.
Okay, where diamond jewelry. All the people who are selling them, all the jewelers are men. Okay, it's practice, like she's saying now. They practice with a lot of people. You begin small.
My question is not to one specific, to general Emery. First of all, thank you for organizing this such a wonderful event and sharing your insights. So the question is that we all discussed about the relevance of design and how it could be catered to a person. But like, since I come from a diamond manufacturing company, I wanted to know what role does the diamond play in it? And does that story gets influenced by the current, challenge or the substitution of diamonds that we are talking around? So what's your opinion on a diamond's role in a jewelry story?
So I think that here storytelling plays a very important role. And we are seeing those stories being played around now in the current scenario. You have the National Diamond Council, which is obviously playing the story about how its mines, there are no blood diamonds, it's done in a very ethical way, and how it's a symbol of eternal love and all of that. And you have the lab-grown sector, which is saying it's, sustainability. So again, that's their story. And it's more, it appeals to maybe the millennials and the Gen Z because they are more affordable, ethically sourced and sustainable. So this is a prime example actually of storytelling. Each one is saying what they believe in, what their strong points are, what is their forte, and that's storytelling for you. So it actually resonates.
I feel as a product has more storytelling cues than most other products. Right from the product as a whole, diamond, okay? The virtue of a diamond as it is. The virtue of the journey, which is a different story. So you have something called minds to market. वो एक story है ग्राहक को बोलने को. When you add design to that, there's another story. When you have diamonds packaged in white gold or rose gold, you create another story. So it's all about, just keeping your mind open and then trying to see different angles as to what would appeal to this particular customer. Now, all of these angles are real, factual based stories. Mind to market is for real. Diamond having 58 facets, birth हो रहा है 120 किलोमीटर जमीन के नीचे, वो truth है. वो truth का temperature, pressure को correlate करने story, there's so much of, there's enough in the product.
And it's the biggest story of strength, you know.
Yeah.
The कोयले को तराश के उस temperature पे जो हीरा निकलता है, it is compared till today with the most toughest situations in life. That's one story. The journey, as Navin said, is the most beautiful story a diamond undergoes with, and it can be compared to any.
It's the product.
You know, our personal life journeys can be compared to the story of diamond.
I think adding to minds to market, I'll give you my own example. Right from studying at GIA to, actually jewelry designing, but the time I went to the De Beers mines, that was such an eye-opener, trust me. I mean, and my world changed with diamonds after that. As much as I loved diamonds, but the storytelling side of it completely changed for diamonds after that, because I think it had a whole different story angle to itself.
I'm sorry to
And
intervene.
that would resonate more with you.
I'm extremely sorry to intervene, but I totally understand we can go on and on with this. But I just made a promise to 2 questions. I'm going to request the gentleman to address this question first. Please address the next question immediately, and then you guys can, kind of address to both at the same time. It'll help us save a moment. So please.
Yes, this is for my esteemed panelist. How you will describe cocktail rings? Means when a cocktail rings come to your mind, how you will describe a cocktail ring? You're not getting my point. See, hello, I mean to say, cocktail rings. Cocktail rings.
Something that I'm wearing.
How you will describe that as a design, as a story?
If I can answer that,
yes.
Cocktail, if I remove the ring part of it, cocktail as a whole has become one of the biggest events, one of the biggest, part of, be it a wedding, be it an engagement journey, be it all the milestone functions today that we are celebrating, A Diwali has a cocktail party, weddings have a cocktail party, even back in South, where I think cocktail and engagement cocktail and reception weren't even part of the ceremonies, are being added now because it's become such a huge opportunity, to celebrate. So while weddings and all are for your relatives and all, cocktail is something you want to have fun. Cocktail is something you want to have, just celebrate with your close ones.
Exactly. What I'm saying is, who's the jeweler in the world who started cocktail rings?
Who started? That's a different question there.
Because it's total misnomer. Cocktail rings in India, or whatever it is, we are very jagadus. कोई भी चीज़ बड़ा color stone हो गया, वो with some diamonds, it becomes a cocktail ring. Actually, Chopard originated the cocktail ring how? With the cocktail drinks. If you see the cut of the stones and the way they used to put a orange, the straw, it started with that. And so in India, we were not so good in cutting the stones.
I would like to interrupt you. The term cocktail ring, I've seen the collection that you're talking about, the Chopard cocktail collection, where you have these martini glasses and the lemons and all of that.
Started that,
The term came way before that.
Okay, when it came?
I don't know when it came, but the collection is fairly new, and the term cocktail rings were where. Basically, cocktail ring means like if I'm wearing this ring and you're holding a glass, you just at a party holding a glass and your ring is showing. That's all. You don't need to do anything.
But I mean to say that Chopard designers never thought so. It's going to happen like this. They came with the original idea. When you're talking authenticity, authentic.
They literally
that's a product. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I think cocktail as a word isn't something that Chopard would have patented. Or
so it's just
it's not
We are not talking about patenting. Na? We are talking about originality. We are talking about original. Authentic.
We got the essence. So there is something which, like you rightly said, Chopard has created it in a particular manner.
Yes.
As a concept, what they are trying to put across, cocktail is a generic concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So they're saying that anything which can be flashed, any indulgence which can be flashed on your finger, classifies as a cocktail ring.
I'm sorry, I beg to differ on this.
But Laksh, I think everyone will have their own version of it.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
Because it can be, like we say the word cocktail, it can be something which is fused. It has a mix. So cocktail can be a mix of something. It can be a mix of diamonds with big gemstones. It can be anything with only big gemstones. So I think everyone will have their own different definition to that.
And I would say right now what's really priceless is time.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, but I think in India and in this industry, and be it any industry, what will always we have is we'll always come with someone who agrees to disagree kind of, and we all have our opinions, and at the same time, let's respect those opinions. So thank you, sir. I'm so glad you brought that up, so also it adds to some knowledge. Thank you, ma'am, for highlighting all that you could. And it's time for us to just cut it short. But sir, I know you have an important question. I am really running out of this time. I'm going to request you to get in touch with these guys and they'll have this question answered, ma'am, in case you don't mind, all of you.
Sure.
And for now, I would want to thank all of you for being present here today. It's been such a fruitful session. You guys
Thank you,
came in
everybody.
with your energy, your beauty, and you just took this entire thing to another level altogether. So probably, I think if you're looking from the moon, this place is shining the most, is it? All right. I wonder who's out there right now. Okay, I'm going to request the founder for Venus Jewels, founder and partner, to join us up here. Shri Ramnik Bhaiji, please.
Come. Avi jao. Okay.
A big round
Another
of applause.
gentleman with
He's
simplicity.
the person we are
and
getting to
Ramnik
see all of
Yes,
this.
yes,
So Venus
yes.
has been gracious enough to be the knowledge partner for this entire seminar series. And I think we owe it to them that knowledge starts prevailing all over the industry. So that's the right further.
Shukra. Yeah, actually.
That's why
Absolutely.
shukriya karna padta hai na?
And Shukra is also like a thank you in another language altogether. Wow, so that was beautiful. Thank you for highlighting that as well.
यहाँ આવી जाओ ने.
That is Mr. Ramnik Bhai Shah, the founder and partner for Venus Jewels. And we'd like to felicitate our speakers here with a little token of appreciation. GJPC has been a part of this One Earth initiative. GJPC has come up with this great initiative where we have these lovely plantations all across the planet wherever we can. The more people associated with us, the more we are planting and we're trying to do our bit towards Mother Earth. So here it is, a little one to all of you. Keep us all in memory, and we're going to remember this day as well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being present here today. And once again, a big thank you to our partners, Venus Jewels.